Welcome to Where Her Heart Speaks, a show designed to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also to help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Catherine begins now.
Hi there, it's Coach Catherine. Have you ever wondered about the state of your nervous system? Do your thoughts, behaviors, and actions come from your authentic self, or are they trauma responses? We've all heard about the fight or flight response, but what does it really mean? Listen, I've created a quick and easy assessment for you to determine the state of your nervous system. Is it keeping you safe? Is it keeping you stuck? Or is it allowing you to be your authentic self and thrive? If you'd like to know the answer to that question, if you'd like to experience more peace and calm, or just move from a state of surviving and into thriving, I want to invite you to go to my website, www.catherinejames.com. And right there on the front page, you'll find the assessment. Take the assessment. And after you go through and take the assessment, you will receive some tips on how you can move, how you can change the state of your nervous system, maybe from surviving into thriving. So Mother's Day is right around the corner. And this week, we're diving into a subject that's not talked about nearly enough: being a mom and being a professional. Hi there. Welcome and welcome back to Where Her Heart Speaks. Being a mom and being a professional. How does one handle the challenges that present with both in one life? Again, I'm super excited this week to have another amazing woman with me, Dr. Cortney Beasley. She is a psychologist, and she's someone that I have had the pleasure and opportunity of getting to know over the past few months. And I think the perfect person to dive into this conversation with. So, Dr. Cortney, welcome. Thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm so good. I loved your intro. Well done, really. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I am so happy that you're here. And before we jump into this topic that I know you're very passionate about, tell us a little bit about you. Who is Dr. Cortney and your business, and just some things to help us get to know you a little better, or the audience?
Yeah. So I'm a mother, and I'm so happy I get to be a part of this conversation. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I'm a meditation instructor, and I also offer coaching services to mothers. And yeah, since having my son, who's about to be 2 pretty soon, I've just found myself leaning more into the work with mothers and with birth workers. And it's something I'm really passionate about because of my own experience in motherhood so far. And then because of what I've learned as a psychologist and working with women, and having the opportunity to be on this side where I get to hear so many different stories and hearing the similarities of our experiences, even though, oftentimes we're so unaware and we feel alone in our experiences. So yeah, motherhood, psychology, spirituality, all of that, and kind of in one is what really is reflective of my business, which is Put in Black.
Yeah. Ooh, as I'm listening, my mind always starts racing and I hear so many things. One that stood out is we always feel alone, and I'm going to come back to you. I'll come back to that, but thank you for just giving us a snippet of who you are. And I say a snippet because I know that it's so much bigger.
Yeah, for sure.
But we are here, and I said that I think you're the perfect person for this because as I think about being a mom and being a professional, I just think about all of the dynamics that's involved with the two. And oftentimes, when we are little girls and we're given this picture or have this picture painted for us, to grow up and be a mom, we
Right.
think that the everything is going to be rosy, right? It's going to be this perfect little process, and then we get there and life happens. And so
Mhm.
I know that um, your story is that life happens. So why don't you
Ooh, yeah.
share a little bit about the process? You're a psychologist, you're working,
Uh-huh.
now you're with child.
Mhm. Yes. Oh my gosh. Uh, well, I think it's important to mention that another big part of my journey so far with motherhood has been losing my brother shortly before learning I was pregnant.
Mhm.
So just a couple months before I learned I was pregnant, my brother died. And then that really started to, when I go back into my mind about when things felt a little bit more like, okay, life makes sense. I can do this. That's the time marker for me.
Wow.
So losing my brother, and then at that time I was working for a startup company, a startup clinic.
Mhm.
So I wasn't working for myself yet. And things shift when you have a major loss in a way that kind of causes you to question life and right, like what is the meaning and what is the point of anything that we're doing when
Mhm.
you have a loss that is so close to your heart. Um, and so from there, I chose to start my own practice because I couldn't meet the demands of the startup clinic I was working for. I don't know that I can say I was grieving at that point, but I was definitely, things just didn't make sense. And I didn't have the space to give to as many people as they were asking me to see during that time.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay. Oh, and also that was a time of that was, the pandemic time, that was protests and um a lot of just social unrest within the US, right? And or at least it was more magnified at that time.
Mhm.
And so I started my practice, no, knowing I'm pregnant, and I also have a lot to sort of build for the foundation, but knowing that that was the healthiest choice for me. And I'm thinking, okay, I have a few months to get to make this strong, to plan things out, to get organized. I'm planning a home birth. We got this, knowing too that you can't plan everything out. But oh my goodness, I had no idea it would go so different than I thought. So planning for a home pregnancy, and then my son comes 3 months earlier than we had expected.
Mhm.
Um, so I had an emergency C-section.
Oh.
He was in the hospital for 3 months. So that meant the summer of 2021, I spent 3 months every day there with him. And yeah, and all while still, yeah, I just started my practice. I have a commitment to the people that I work with.
Yeah.
I have a responsibility to let them know where I'm at.
Mhm.
um, because my body and my whole being was going through so much. And yeah, I'll pause. I feel, yeah, that all happened very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Hmm.
sounds like it happened very quickly. Um,
Yeah.
as you were saying that, I'm thinking, so you were birthing a new
Oh
business,
my gosh.
baby. And we
Right.
know that one birth, like to go through the process is a hard thing. And sitting on the side now,
Mm,
being a business owner as well, birthing a
hmm.
business is a hard thing, right?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about women, like all of the high achieving women that I get to work with, who these are the states that we go into, and it seems so natural. Like, who would start a business knowing that they're pregnant? And
Right.
it feels
Ah,
so natural, right?
Right. It was like that was the answer. That was the option for me, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
As you're saying it, I feel like who does that?
just that. All of these high achievers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's on our chest. Got it.
Absolutely.
We can do it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. But at the same time, also knowing that the alternative, I couldn't do it. The alternative of my alternative at that time, what I saw at least, was
Mhm,
staying for and working for this company
mhm.
where I would be doing a disservice. First of all, my health, that's the most important thing. I would be way too tired, way too drained with the amount of people I was seeing.
Mhm.
And then I just wouldn't be doing a good job.
Yeah.
Like I just wouldn't. There's too many people. My mind was doing a lot of things that I couldn't, right? Like my body was growing a whole human.
Yeah.
And then that's the part too, right? Life is still happening. So I mentioned the loss of my brother. I mentioned the pregnancy, but also life every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just whatever shows up from day to day.
Right,
But I
right.
appreciate that. And I'm saying who does that? And I think a common thread that I see in working with women that are I call high achievers is that there is just a different way of thinking in terms of when things don't feel good, you're willing to take the risk. You're willing to
Mm,
shift. You're willing to get out, even if it
mm-hmm,
means going into something that um, may feel a little uncomfortable. It's like, yes,
mm-hmm.
and I'm willing to let go of this thing that I know is not good for me right now.
Yes,
So being
yes.
able to truly consider yourself in that moment is admirable. Um, I say in working with women, I know that we make shifts, and I also know that there's a large number of us who take too long to make those shifts, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
For all of the various reasons. So that you
right.
are able to say, yeah, I know that that kind of sounds crazy, but staying where I was doing what I was doing sounds a little or felt a little, and I won't call it crazy because I won't label, but you knew that it was not something that you were willing to do, continue doing, not only for yourself, but I also like that you said for the people that you were serving. Like you knew that you wouldn't be able to
Absolutely.
provide quality service.
Right.
So
Yeah.
kudos to you for that. Kudos to you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I feel like I've had, especially over the last couple of years, I have to do those checks with myself
Mhm.
because I've experienced a lot back to back. And I know, we're all experiencing things and life can hit us so hard. And I know that it is it's necessary to check in with myself to be taking care of myself in a way that will allow me to show up for the people that I work with. Uh, and yeah, that requires me being real about with myself and saying like, okay, how am I doing right now? And the darkest moments and the toughest moments when I felt alone or when I couldn't see through a situation, what do I have to offer and is this the healthiest thing? And all while that being my form of income too,
Yeah.
like being all the way real with it. Like it's not an easy thing to be in this work as a psychologist because I'm also human. And
Mhm.
I think that we like to, as a society, and I think psychologists like to act like we're something other than what we are. We're human and we have very human experiences, and um, they show up in the work right after a session, right
Yeah.
before, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that transparency. Like that's real.
Mhm,
Oftentimes,
mhm,
I think helpers put on like
mhm.
these masks and pretend like everything's okay. And it's like
Right.
said, we're all human, and unless if you're able to walk away and not be moved by certain situations, appear as though you're unscathed, then that, for me, that's the bigger question, because we all
Right.
have emotions, and if
Mm-hmm.
we are
Mm-hmm.
not bothered by something, I would wonder what's up with our emotions. Like, it just
Mm-hmm.
feels like there's some suppression going on. It feels like there's some disconnection or dissociation going on, right? And
Yep.
that's another topic. All right. So
I know. I'm looking, I'm nodding like, yeah, let's keep going.
I'm like, I'm on my way down that rabbit hole. Um, so in terms of motherhood, though, and being a professional woman, um,
Uh-huh.
I heard a shift. Like you said, your plan was to have a home birth,
Uh-huh.
and because
Yeah.
you came early, you not only just had him naturally, you not at home, not
Mm.
naturally, not
Right.
in the hospital naturally, but you had to have a
Nope.
C-section.
Yep. All the medicine, all the things. Yeah.
That
Everything that they could offer to keep us alive, really.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And still serving your clients. So talk to me a little bit
Mhm.
about what kept you going, what state of being, I'm not even going to say state of mind, what state of being were you in? How were you able to maintain and manage?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever meant this more than I do now, but I'm absolutely a spiritual person, and I just know that was God helping me through each step of the way. There's no other way. Had I relied on myself, on my partner, on a person, it's not workable. It wasn't doable. Yeah, we don't have the strength for that. Like if yeah, that's how I think of it. But so yeah, we have this very traumatic experience where my child is no longer with I'm not my child is no longer with me, meaning I'm no longer pregnant, but then he's also not with me in the home once I go home. So it was I don't know that I have words to really do it, to really describe the experience of that, but I do know that if I had not had my work, I would have been caught up in, because my son was in the NICU, I would have been in the NICU world all the time. And we were there so often throughout right? Like as much as we could be. And the connection that I had when I got to go meet with someone, and all my work is virtual, thank God. Um, when I got to go meet with someone and kind of just like be a part of their world for a bit, or at least hear about theirs for a bit, and just connect with another person
Uh-huh.
who is not having the same experience as I have. Because I had other women I was connecting with, or other people, right, who would share their stories with me within the hospital. But to be able to step out of that and to show up with the people that I was working with, and to remember that there's life outside of the hospital world, I really feel like it helped me to just to feel like I'm more than a mother whose child is in the NICU. I'm more than the trauma of an emergency C-section, and I'm more than all the shame I was carrying around, um, not carrying my son to full term, and um, the just the adjustments that I was going through hormonally with my body. There was so much going on, and to be able to go back to my work in a very authentic way. I didn't share with the people, I'm saying my clients, patients, whatever term people like to use, but I didn't share with the people I work with right away, because I didn't want to put anything onto them, and I didn't feel like I was ready to. So I shared with them once my baby was close to coming home. Felt like better able to do that in a way that would be authentic, but also wouldn't be me breaking down in a session, or 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 giving a part of myself that I wasn't ready to share, honestly.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question? I feel like I kind of went all over.
I think you answered my question and gave us more. Like you said,
Okay.
um, I was able to get through. It wasn't as a result of anything human. Like
Yeah, it couldn't be.
fine,
Yeah,
right?
no, yeah,
And
for
that
sure.
basically gave credit to God and your spirituality and
Mhm.
understanding that you had to be careful in how you walked. What I appreciate one that I agree. There are some things that we have to deal with that are outside of human capabilities, capacity.
Mhm.
Um, and I also like that you said, even though you were going through this hard stuff, when you came and you were able to connect with other people, it was almost like it gave you a break. It was almost
Yes,
you to be human again and not just so
right.
consumed in all of the hard stuff. And I
Mhm.
think that's something very important in that because so often, and this goes back to what you said, people feel like they're all alone. So often we feel like we're all alone because we tend to isolate when we're dealing with hard
Mhm.
stuff. We,
Mhm.
just want to go into a little hole and maybe it'll go away.
Right.
I would wonder if it was a part of the process as you stayed with your clients, because what science tells us is that human beings need other human beings, like we need
Right.
connection. And so,
Uh-huh.
in you continuing to do the work with them, you were also getting something from them as you were giving to them.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. You put that together so well. I don't think, and maybe you feel this too at times. I feel like the people that we get to work with often don't know what they give to us as well. They
Yeah.
just, right? Like, oh, thank you, Dr. Courtney. Or like, oh, that was good. Or I'm like, yeah, thank you. You have no idea what was going on, like a little bit before you and I connected. And yes, it definitely served as a break for me during that time. A break, and then it was like it gave me energy. Like, okay, I can keep going. I can keep doing this.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
get that. I get that. For a long time, I shied away from using terms like energy. And as I have evolved, I am just like
Mhm.
totally into energy and believe in energetic exchange. And so
Yeah. Yes.
I talk about humans being kind of like animals. Like we animals like to be in packs, and we
Mhm.
naturally like to be in packs. But here in the Western world, we are individualized based on conditioning, right? Um, so as you talk about like what you get out of it, it's not so much that we're pulling, but whatever they bring, there's this energy that's around it, even if it's the energy of,
Mhm.
we are helping somebody move on, move beyond, or they get off and they're in a better space. Like that energy then is reciprocated, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yes, I do get it. I totally get it, and I appreciate everyone that I work with because it's not just me giving to them, but I get something too, right? Um,
Mhm.
so you have the baby, you have the section. He's in the hospital, and
Mhm.
are juggling life and work over here, and trying to get to the hospital to get to him, and then
Right.
he comes home.
And then he comes home. Thank God. Yes. Uh-huh. He
Yeah.
comes home and yeah. I'm even trying to remember back to that moment, that time. He comes home, so then my little baby, it's no longer staying up to like look at a because they have video streaming, so you can see your baby in the NICU. He comes home. That means definitely waking up often, but I was already not sleeping well, right? Because my baby wasn't with me. That means having him there while I'm doing my work. And I want to acknowledge I'm incredibly blessed and I'm so grateful for the career path that I've chosen and that I've worked for because I do get to work from home. So right, and all I'm aware of the mothers who they didn't get to just like I got to and let me say too, the hospital that I went to, first of all, had enough, like they had the capabilities to take care of us in the way that they did. And then my baby got to stay there and it was really close to my home where I worked, right? So all of that is I'm really fortunate. Um, but yeah, just being able to do my work and then go spend time with my baby. Yeah, it's a gift. And it was, I don't know, I can't even say how much more challenging was it than when I was pregnant because I was also very sick when I was pregnant. And I was be like, 1 minute, gotta go to the restroom really quick. um, but I didn't even let you finish your question. I just started talking because it was such an exciting moment when he came home.
That's good. That's to be captured, to relive that. I'm thinking, he comes home and I would imagine that there is just a ton of excitement and a ton of responsibilities.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. I can speak to that, but let me calm down. Go ahead.
And I do want you to speak to that. And before you speak to that, yeah, pausing to acknowledge those women who don't work for themselves, who do have to go to
Right.
the office. And I'm going to ask, maybe after this, is just like things that we can do just to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. So before
Yeah.
we go there, let's talk about that. So yeah, we're excited because he's home. And then there's all of these responsibilities. So well, it's not just going to the hospital anymore. It's now
Right.
he's here 24/7.
Right. Yeah. And and remembering too that when you're in the hospital, there's a lot of machines that tell you if something's going right or wrong. And so we got used to the beeping. And so, for example, if his oxygen saturation was not not high enough, then the machine starts to beep and then it'll let you know, like, okay, this is like you really need to be worried, the nurses come, whatever. So then when he comes home, we're like, is he okay? Is his heart okay? Is he breathing okay? Because there's no machine to tell us. And I remember one nurse recommended, like, there's a machine that you can get at home where you can still it'll alert you if his breathing isn't doing too good. And I just we decided no, his dad and I, because it just felt like we were going to become dependent on these things even more than we already were. And I'm like, let me just look at my child and see how he's doing because his body, he lets us know, right? We look at him. Um, and so there's the fears associated. There was a lot of fears I feel that we learned from being in the hospital environment and from the doctors and nurses needing to do their job and say like, hey, these things could happen. And so it's a lot of like, what ifs. And then there's a lot of doctor's appointments after your baby doesn't just go from being in the hospital for 3 months to no appointments. So doctor's appointments to manage throughout the week and work and life and the other stuff like the breastfeeding, the pumping, the diapers, I don't remember that being overwhelming or or feeling like how are we managing this? It felt like the other stuff was the part where it was like, can we just get through the last doctor's appointment? I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see
Mhm.
that because it's all of the normal things that come with having a child and other.
Right.
It's interesting that you said just being in the hospital all that time caused all this fear. As I'm thinking back when I had my son, my first child, I came home with all this fear. Like I remember he was a baby that
Mm.
slept through the night from day one, and I would literally wake him up.
Wow.
He must not be breathing. Why is he not crying?
Right.
He says that he's going to wake up. What's
Right.
So I cannot even imagine the magnitude or the intensified fear that you all then took on after having been in the hospital all this time.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
what I want to highlight is what you said is we weren't going to depend on those machines. We were going to just look at our babies, look at my baby, look
Mm-hmm.
at my baby, and his body would tell me. And I want to highlight that because what I am certain of, what science tells us, is that every child wants to be seen.
Mm,
Every child
yeah.
wants to be heard. And oftentimes, as professionals, we are not um, afforded the time to slow down and see our child because we're just on to the next. And because of the condition that your child was born into or born with at that time,
Right.
he got the beauty of having a mom slow down and just see him. And like in this moment, I'm just like,
Wow.
we don't even, like, we never know. This is
Wow.
in this moment. Um, we don't ever know the gifts that are being presented. Like, had he been
Oh my
healthy and whole,
gosh.
it's just, okay, let me just get back to work and I'll just make sure that
Right.
he's fed. But no, I get to slow down. I get to see him. I get to watch his body. I get to learn him. And I'm saying all this for all of the listeners that are out there. You may not have a
Mm,
baby, or you may be getting ready to have a baby. Whatever your mothering status is, all children want to be seen. All children want to be heard, and to
wow.
just slow down and learn them, see them, not focus so much on the work, but focus on.
Yes.
And what I know about you, Courtney, is that you have such a connection, Dr. Courtney, I'm sorry, a connection with your son. And I
Yeah.
would just venture to say, because you had the intuition to slow down and watch him, learn him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. I, you've taught me that in other conversations, like, when we've talked about rushing to get ready for the day. And I think of you often because I will intentionally slow down. Is anything that important to where I'm putting this energy onto my child or I'm teaching him you have to rush through things? Um, and even when I was reading in the story yesterday, I do still find myself being like, okay, this, and then I gotta do this, right? There's a checklist in my mind. But when we're in that hospital and they talk to us about the importance and of skin to skin, and I didn't get to hold my baby right away too, right? So the appreciation for being able to hold my child. And then when I first got to hold him, it could only be for a brief amount of time because he had to have support with breathing, and his body just couldn't take it. It was too much. And so where am I going with that? I'm saying all that to say that I wouldn't do anything else when I was in that hospital. And the first time he let me hold him for like an hour, I'm like, I wasn't on my phone. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna have to go do this and this. And we read to him, we sang to him, and it wasn't about like, okay, that's enough books. Like, we're not rereading that book. It was like, oh, did he hear that? Did he respond to that? There was so much appreciation for the time spent and for how we got to see it affecting his development. And I think that it's so easy to take for granted once he came home, once I'm back into working mode, pretty steadily, to be like, okay, okay, here's this. Like, Mom's gotta go, right? And just rushing it along as if it is as if it's more important than him. And I'm realizing that more of the expectations we can place on ourselves. Like for me, it's been why are you not where you said you would be by now?
Mm,
When and you heard everything that I just shared. That's only part of it, right? There's other life stuff like we all have.
yeah.
Everything that I've just shared, and it's like, wait, what? Where is the grace and the compassion?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Catherine. That's a
Love
beautiful way
that.
to.
Love that. I like the
Mhm,
things we take for granted,
mhm,
right? To hear you say that, to hold him for an hour, the things we take for granted.
mm,
Now that I can
yeah,
just kind of push you along, here, give you this and go over there, like the things we
right.
take for granted. Mm.
Yeah, that gave me
And
chills.
what is more important? Like we have been trained and conditioned to believe that this stuff out here, whatever this stuff out here is, in each individual life is so much more important than these lives that we've been entrusted with. And
Mm,
we're talking about a young child and talking about your child, but for me and what resonates with me is it is all parents,
mhm,
regardless of the age of your child, helping them to understand that they are just as important, if not more.
mm,
They have come from us, right?
mhm,
And it's not looking for a response from them, but just that we're standing and we're sitting in a space that holds them, helps them to understand that we hold them at a level of importance that
mm.
can't really be defined. If I'm thinking about it, like
Yes.
there's no defining that.
No.
How do
No.
we do that? By being present, by connecting with them, by seeing them, looking at their
Mm,
bodies. And what I
mhm,
know is that we are incapable of doing that. We don't have the capacity to do that when we sit in a dysregulated nervous system,
mhm.
when we are stuck in fight or flight, responding from trauma responses. We don't have the capacity to do that. So what I
Right.
as our time is flying by, that you mentioned grace, and if you would
Mhm,
just share, um, how does one, what would you give to someone who maybe don't understand or have not paused long enough to sit in grace? Like, how do we get to a place of knowing what can I do? And this is, I'm going to say, take it off your mom hat, maybe putting on your yoga instructor.
yeah. Meditation instructor.
Yeah, it's
I'm
meditation.
like, don't have the yogis coming after me. I love yoga, but yeah.
Yeah, what would you offer?
Yeah. I would say it starts with the moments where we even begin to notice that we need to slow down, that we need to breathe, that our shoulders need to come down a little bit, right? We can spend our whole day with our shoulders like close to our ears because we're not breathing. And I've talked to so many women, so many mothers who have that experience. So it's when you're in your car with yourself, with your child, with whoever, taking a moment to let that breath go a bit deeper and really just and being less concerned about what people think of you when you do the breath, if it looks crazy, whatever it is, or if it's a thought that you have, you do something or you forget something, or maybe you were really irritated with your child and you say, okay, right? Giving yourself some love and saying, and we're doing the best that we can in this moment. And I want to be very clear, that's not excusing our behavior, but it's acknowledging that it's part of the experience. We have moments where we really feel frustrated or we are falling back on what's familiar or what we know about parenting or what we've experienced ourselves. And it's going to happen. And what we can do is do our best to take care of ourselves so that we can show up for our kids. Take care of yourself anyway, kids or not. But yeah, I would say using the moments like in the car to breathe, using the moments where you're doing the dishes, where you're just going out to take the trash. If you're sitting with your child, I think we underestimate how much they pay attention to us and what they'll take on. And really enjoying your favorite music. If you hear a song that feels good to you, turn it up, enjoy that song. And I'm saying it again because I know I'm not the only one where we can be more concerned about what others will think of us than we are about our own needs. It's okay if people think you're off or they're like, oh, what is she doing? That's okay. Enjoy. That's what I would say. It comes in the most simplest of ways, and just noticing the parts of you that need more attention and more love starts with like noticing those thoughts of, well, why'd you do that? Or you could have done this better, or oh, okay. And you're doing the best that you can, and saying I love you to yourself. I'm gonna say a whole list. I'm gonna stop there, but I know we all need a bit more self-love and
Yeah.
compassion.
Yes. Checking that inner critic. Why'd you say that? Well, you could have done that better. No, I'm doing the
Right.
best I can. Check the inner critic.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love you. I do an exercise, share exercises with my clients that is about, I call it the mirror exercise when they're looking in the mirror at themselves and saying, I love you, which oftentimes feels strange, but there is something so profound and powerful in that. So,
It is. I've started doing that, Catherine, since you've
oh,
told me about
good,
it.
good,
Not consistently, but I've started. Yes.
yay. Some of the things you can do, oftentimes we don't realize it because our behaviors may be more familiar than we realize they are. They feel more natural. So when you're in a state that's feeling like it's your norm, it's hard to check it. It's hard to say that there may be a better way. But if you catch yourself and hearing if it's the inner critic or that you're feeling down a certain I'm going to say period of time more frequently than not, then those are just some techniques, breathing, enjoying music. Music is so good for regulating yourself and just saying, I love you. I love you. Even if you don't really feel like you do, just keep doing it. Keep doing it. And eventually you will see your authentic self. So, Cortney, we've got a few minutes. Dr. Cortney, I'm used to talking to you offline, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
We've
No.
got a few minutes though, and I just want you to share how can people connect with you, and if you have anything coming up, what's coming up next? What are you doing?
Yeah. So putinblack.com has my contact information. And then next month I'll have drcourtneybeasley.com. Yay.
Now let's
And
put some context around that, just in case somebody's listening to it next month. Next month meaning May.
next month, oh, thank you. May 2023. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And then I've been working on a directory for Black mothers to help support health equity, and it's called Where Mamas Can Breathe. So that's wheremamascanbreathe.com. So right now we're looking for health providers, healers to sign up, and mamas can sign up too to be updated for when the site is ready for use. And yeah, just hoping to do even more work with birth workers, with mothers, and work meaning I offer individual and group therapy, and also meditation. So yes, and I'm just trying to think if there's anything else with that. I think that's it. And if anyone has questions, they can just reach out to me in those ways.
Yeah, and we have something coming up.
Oh my gosh, Project Her. Yes. Please speak on that.
So, and then you all get first knowledge of it. We'll say that. Project Her is a project that Dr. Cortney and I are working on. It is a group coaching program for Black women. So she and I have come together, super excited about it, just to really dive into issues that are specific for Black women, how they affect Black women, as well as healing from some of those issues. So
Mm-hmm.
your eyes open, and we may be able to drop the link to that on this on the notes of this podcast. So you may be able to register and get information about it and learn when we actually roll it out. So
Mm-hmm.
as we sign off each week, Courtney, I choose to end with some type of prayer. And just briefly for the group, my prayer is that whether you're a mom or a daughter, you've had a mom, my prayer is that you will pause, allow yourself to be still, pause and see the child that you have been gifted with, or the child that lives within you. Pause. And we've been given some techniques, be it breathing, music, or simply saying, I love you. And in closing, as always, please remember that in this life, we get to choose to live a sensational life. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for listening to Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Catherine, where Catherine aims to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Follow Catherine on Facebook and Instagram at I Am Catherine James, and visit www.catherinejames.com. Remember, to live the life of your dreams, you must go within and return to the place where your heart speaks.